Welcome to the Gibberfish Podcast.
Well, Dom may have used me, betrayed me, fucked up my face, but we're here to talk gibberfish, aren't we, Dom?
I deny everything. What did I do?
That is a quote from the relatively new game Hunt for the Freeman, which is a fan-based project based on the Half-Life series that came out recently, and it did not go well. Obviously, when you have a game as storied as Half-Life, everyone's kind of really nervous to take on the project. Even Valve don't want to touch the next Half-Life. And yet a group of fans were like, hey, we got this. Turns out, no, they did not have this. And there are possibilities of lawsuits in there. So, I found that quote in amongst stuff from a YouTuber I'm a big fan of called The Right Opinion. He did a hour-long breakdown on the GoFundMe promises, the voice acting talent that was mostly drawn from YouTube. Not so much because the YouTubers themselves were fans of the game or because they had particular voice acting skills, because you can find some incredibly talented voice actors on YouTube these days. But these were just people. These were YouTube celebrities that could maybe push the game for the developers. And funnily enough, they're all involved in the marketing campaign. So, But yeah, I'd advise if anyone wants to see a really good shit show that's good, clean, wholesome fun, Hunt for the Freeman. Give it a look. Try to find some YouTube videos talking about the game, because they tried. You can tell that they kind of tried, but the voice acting is all over the place.
Yeah, it was like the Rooster Teeth produced Transformers show that was on Netflix. The voice acting on that it ranged from good to absolutely trash. Like the person that I know Optimus wasn't in it much, but the person that they got to voice Optimus Prime clearly wasn't the original. And whoever they got to voice Megatron was okay, but it wasn't Frank Welker. It just was pretty bad. And then you had the pretty hard to watch videos of Frank Welker and Peter Cullen. Peter Cullen, talking about how Rooster Teeth basically screwed them out of a job that's been theirs for fucking decades.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to go a bit cheaper. So yeah.
Actually, funny. Speaking of Megatron, his original voice actor for the movies was Orson Welles, right?
No, Orson Welles was a character called Unicron.
Oh yeah, Unicron.
It was the big bad guy of the 19. I don't know why I'm giving a date. It's the only Transformers movie.
There's been nothing since. Nonsense, chicanery, or real life imitations of Transformers exist. There was only the 1980s movie.
Yeah, there's only the 1980s animated movie and Bumblebee. That's it. All the shit. Michael Bay's fever dreams don't exist.
But I just recently learned this listening to the fantastic Talk With It Rhythm podcast that Orson Welles was originally lined up to play the villain in Goldfinger James Bond. Holy shit. I'd watch the hell out of that.
Cool. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
But Orson Welles got Orson Welles, so he cost too much money and probably wasn't worth the effort to deal with. So yeah. Never happened. But you could have had Sean Connery and Orson Welles for the most iconic spy movie of all time, arguably. Oh, yeah. But yeah, I mean, we got what we got, and we still got a great movie out of it. But yeah, that was just my little weird film trivia of the week. It's probably not the only piece.
I don't think I've seen all of Goldfinger.
I think I've seen all the old Bonds, up to Pierce Brosnan. I've seen the first two Daniel Craig ones, because that first one did bring Bond back. And then just never got around to seeing what's the last two?
Casino Royale and
I've seen
Quantum
Casino Royale.
of Solace.
Those are the two I've seen. There's been another one since then. What's his Spectre? And
yeah.
Then there's the one that's coming out.
That was the one. Spectre was the one where they brought back Blofeld, but he was played by Dr. King Schultz,
Javier Bardem,
Christoph Waltz.
Yeah, but I just somehow dropped off the end of these, and these are apparently good Bond films, so I just haven't got around to seeing them yet. But we had the cassettes at home. We just had the tapes. It was just one long line of Bond films, because, thickness of cassettes, just all the way across a top shelf. But that was a regular thing. Just we spent an entire summer one year just watching Bond films, and they're fucking. Some of them are really weird and dated, and a lot of it won't work. Typically, anything involving anyone from Africa or South America will not work, but most of it's pretty good.
And then there was the Moonraker, where they made a James Bond movie that was trying to rival Star Wars, because I think it came out around about the same time as Empire or Return of the Jedi, Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi, and the director knew he was going to have to do something of that same ilk
Yeah.
to try and compete with Star Wars, and it was James Bond with a jetpack
In space.
firing weird laser guns that I'm pretty sure you could even hear the guy shouting pew pew. It was bad.
I'm trying to remember what the one is that they had a fight with scuba gear on. That was pretty cool. There's one where there's like two teams of like 5 special operations guys all murdering each other in scuba gear. I'm like, what the fuck is this? They're like stabbing each other and cutting each other's oxygen lines, trying to like get to like an objective, and Bond's like one of the only ones that makes it through. You're like,
Yeah.
what
I wanna
absolute
say
madness is this?
I want to say that's one of that's the film starts with them getting to a beach, but that doesn't narrow it down at all.
Yeah.
There's a lot of those films that start in, sunny locales, beaches, very Mediterranean looking places, and they go to London for a little bit, maybe, and then they just go straight back to the warm climates.
Well, that was part of the appeal of the Bond films back in the day, was the fact that it was made in the 1960s and 70s and 80s. And if you talk to your parents from that time, they just didn't travel the way we did. Like, you just didn't go to Spain. And seeing Bond go to Spain was a great way of exposing the UK audience to say, hey, check out this weird place that you're probably not going to go to, but if you do, there's a guy down the street who'll sell you a plane ticket for probably about 100 quid. Might as well have a look, see what Bond gets up to on his time off, There was always that kind of added angle to it. And I think they actually probably used part of that in the production of the film to say, hey, we're a Bond film, we're going to be seen by every British person who truly loves the Queen. You should probably let us film in your country for a bit. And then somebody go, yeah, sounds good.
Hey, these world famous Bond films? We're going to shoot one here if that's cool.
Do you mind? Is it too much of a hassle? No, please. On you go. Film whatever crazy nonsense you want.
Yeah, just you guys buy them.
But I feel like we've danced around what I earlier called the elephant in the room, which is that we're recording this on January the 23rd of 2021, which means we are 3 days into the Biden presidency, which means that there was no surprise QAnon reveal that Trump had been QAnon all along and that he was going to somehow arrest Biden for the fraudulent election that was held back in November 2020. So, as you can tell, we're all a little heartbroken, all a little... I can't do it anymore. I can't do that joke.
Wondering how long it would take, man.
Oh, he's ding dong, that dumb fucking cunt is gone.
Yeah. There's people that I know that are American living over here that were day drinking, because obviously the election was called quite late at night, quite early in the morning, or quite late at night here, but quite early in the morning over in America. And they were just, as soon as they could drink the following day, they were just down in drinks. They were just so happy that guy was out of their hometown.
There was like a solid 3-day period where I genuinely couldn't tell how the election was going to go.
Yeah.
Like they had it almost locked down to Biden, but it got to that kind of mathematically Trump could still do it type of area. And then as the pressure started to mount, you could see Biden just kind of being quietly confident, and Trump just starting to say, we're going to sue everyone, we're going to sue them again, and then we're going to sue them a third time for something we're going to find in the first 2 lawsuits. And you're like, oh wow, you really don't have anything, do you? You're completely fucked. And it's been building over the last couple months. And then on January the 6th, as Vice President Mike Pence was going to count the Electoral College votes, some horde of inbred idiots decided to charge into the Capitol building and try and put a halt to proceedings and possibly lynch Mike Pence.
Yeah, that was, again, I don't know what the end game of that was. It was kind of like, there's a comedian that I've been following for years, a guy named Ross Noble, and he did a gig at a vegan sort of music jazz festival. And
so you said so many of the words I hate at the same time.
Oh, Ross Noble?
No. Vegan jazz festival.
Yeah, it was bad. Yeah, so his thing was, it was all vegetarian and vegan food stands. So he kept going up to them, going, "Oh, can I get a sausage roll?" And they go, "Sorry, mate, vegetarian and vegan." So he does his gig and he's talking to the crowd afterward, and he says, "How funny would it be if we just, get a queue? Every single person that's come to see my gig today, if we form a massive queue, I'll start it. I'll go up and say, 'Do you have any sausage rolls?' And they'll go, 'No, sorry, vegetarian and vegan.' And then the next person goes up behind them and says, 'You got any sausage rolls?' 'No, sorry, vegetarian and vegan.' And he goes, 'Right, let's go and do that.' He finishes the gig, thanks everybody. He says, 'Right, I'm going to go and get some food.' And his plan was originally going to be everyone marching with him in a kind of orderly fashion to queue behind him and order sausage rolls. But what happened was he was getting pushed by a crowd of about 300 to 400 people, just all chanting sausage rolls, all being led by Ross Noble. So he gets to the food van, and instead of saying, "Do you have any sausage rolls?" "Oh no, sorry, vegetarian, vegan. I'll come back." And then everyone just starts stamping their feet and chanting sausage rolls, and they're pushing the vegetarian and vegan stand over, and the guy's just going, "I don't know what you want."
I don't know what you want.
I can imagine that's what it was like. They had a plan, but then they just went. Then the switch, the sensible switch, just went off for the night. He packed up his gear and went home for his sandwiches. Then they just went, "Fuck it, let's just go and invade this place. What are we going to do? I don't know, break stuff, steal stuff."
I think that is part of what I've learned from all of what's been going on, and this is something we've known for a while, and this is why I don't really attend political rallies or don't do anything that's it's got too much potential for mob violence, because there is an unstoppable amount of energy in a room when a group of people decide they are just fucking done. And you can't control that, you can't contain it, like the best public speaker in the world can't stop a horde of angry people doing what they want. It really does take violence to counteract that level of violence. There's a point where you can walk away and everyone can just agree to disagree and stuff like that, but America in general went long past that a long time ago.
Yeah. And it was, I'd like to have been there at the kind of briefing meeting when all the guys were talking about, right, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the Capitol building, we're going to protest. What I need everybody to do is cover their faces and by all means, wear subtle clothing. Don't go over the top. Something that can identify you. Oh, shit.
Hard pan to bison guy.
Hard pants. You're wearing that? Shit. Well,
There were a few notable people. We should just say there were like 5 deaths related to this incident. One of which was a police officer. One apparently was a guy who tried to tase someone and accidentally hit himself in the leg, had a heart attack and died. Most of these deaths are referred to as a medical incident, which could be just like a complication, the stress, the rioting, the fighting, all that. If there's any weak hearts in the room, they will give out under stress, and if you've got a few thousand people there, statistically speaking, several of them are going to have weak hearts. And then there is the case of the young woman who tried to break through a window and got shot by Capitol Police. And I've watched that footage. It's not fucking pleasant. But that was... I honestly have no reservations of what that cop did. He did what he had to do to get home that day. And that's not something I say lightly.
Yeah, he wanted to get home safely. He did his job. And interesting kind of sub-story to this, but that is what led to... I know people on Twitter were calling her the MAGA martyr and all this shit. She just wanted to go home. She was protesting peacefully, blah, blah, blah. And that's what led to... You've probably seen PogChamp got taken down.
Yeah, I did see that one.
The original PogChamp was a guy called Gutex, who was huge in the fighting game scene. But he basically posted that video saying, if no one's going to post it, I will. Let's make this poor lady's sacrifice hashtag MAGA martyr not in vain. And that's basically what led PogChamp getting taken down, because this guy was basically saying, I will show you the video, heed her warning.
PogChamp, by the way, for those of you not in the awareness, is just a general emote used on Twitch and other social media platforms, generally for the phrase poggers, like play the game, like, oh shit, hype moment. This guy was unfortunately standing in front of a green screen when he pulled a silly face to react to a play the game moment, and that became the poggers face. He is now an internet celebrity who fucking hates himself. So, yeah.
He was an internet celebrity. He posted... The guy, I can't remember his full name. It's something Gutierrez, but Gutex was part of a fighting game channel called Cross Counter TV, and he was, he basically brought the FGC, you know, back from the brink because the FGC disappeared all but before the release of Street Fighter 4 and him and a guy named Alex Ross, no, Mike Ross. Alex Ross is the artist that makes those spectacular comic book drawings. But him and Mike Ross basically made this fucking outstanding TV show. The two of them split because Mike Ross didn't really like the way the FGC was going. But I think Gutex, I think about 4 months before or 8 months before he posted that MAGA Martyr post, was posting a video on YouTube about how like everybody sucks, y'all need to just suck it up. You like, I gave you the best years of my life, kind of shit. So he wasn't in the best place.
Yeah.
And then he took to YouTube to explain why PogChamp should be reinstated, and it wasn't any better. But yeah, this whole mess at the Capitol building not only affected many people, including one very young police officer who almost got his head cut off by getting stuck between two doors and getting squeezed relentlessly. But it kind of affected some people online. But to be fair, if someone who is that prominent online is going to post stuff like this saying let's support this woman or support this person's family for breaking the law, fuck them.
Yeah,
PogChamp as well. PogChamp's dumb.
It all has been a horrific 4 years of a president who didn't give a fuck about half the people in his country. And I think that might be one of the best ways I've heard ever heard it phrased. That's from Dan Carlin, who I really want to like. I've been looking at the chaos in America for the last couple of weeks and seeing it reflective of the chaos of the last couple of years, and trying to find somebody who can help rationalise it all has led me down weird and interesting paths. And I think when I look at who's probably helped me the most for the last couple of weeks to figure out what the hell has gone on, Dan Carlin, who is a historian who does the Hardcore History series. He also does a show called Common Sense. I'd recommend it. It's just little hour-long talks that he gives. He doesn't do them as much anymore. And that's because he's struggled to deal with this as well. But he has turned himself towards history. He's looked at various historical figures throughout the last couple of decades and seen all the comparisons he needs to kind of rationalise and contextualise what's gone on in America for the last couple of years. And even then, he's still at a loss for words. But yeah, highly recommend Hardcore History and Common Sense, because Dan Carlin is a great storyteller and a great thinker. And when you give him 90 minutes of your time, you walk away thinking for the rest of the week, just about what he said and what it means to you, which is what you really need right now.
And anybody that can make sense of this, the last 4 years worth of chaos, is somebody that you should probably listen to. Speaking of chaos, did you hear about the woman that was trying to impeach Biden?
My favourite thing was she's been trying for like 3 days to get the paperwork sorted, and it's like, this is more complicated than it seems. Like, yes, that's why we went through it, but we're still going through it twice for fucking Trump. You moron.
I still think that the first hurdle that she has to overcome is, there has to be an offence committed. I don't know US law, and I don't claim to, but surely there has to be an impeachable offence. You can't just go, oh, Biden smells, get rid of him.
The problem with impeachment is that it is not a legal process. It is a political one. It is a political statement that you think the president has done something that warrants his removal from office by the majority approval of Congress and Senate of the United States. And getting people to believe you in that is almost impossible. That's why it was basically never tried. I think there's been 2 impeachments that I know of before Trump. I think there's maybe a third one out there that I can't remember, but the first one was like way back in like the 1800s. Somebody fucked up royally. Then there was Bill Clinton for getting a blowjob in the Oval Office, or there was another thing, but also they were really mad about the blowjob. But it is you saying, I think this president fucked up so badly, he should be removed. Do you agree with me, House of the Senate, House of the Congress? And there is a trial that's based on US court proceedings, but it's not a legal process.
I mean, it probably helps if there's some kind of offence that's been committed that boosts it along. But yeah, I agree with you. It's mostly a political process. But I think Biden has to have at least done something to warrant him being kicked out of office. And at least, I mean, basically reinstituting trans rights for people. I mean, it's pissed off some of the a new word that I learned this month. TERFs. It's pissed off
Oh, you've
those
just
people.
learned turf. Oh, nice.
Yeah, just learned TERF. Yeah.
It's
I mean,
going
I
to fuck
tapped
up a
you with
lot of your
Symphony
perspective.
last year, so yeah, I'm kind of behind on my internet lexicon, but yeah, I mean, should probably get support from the TERFs, but I think even those people realise that in the long run, it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's it's just one of the things of they were the liberals who've fallen behind the current curve of progressivism, and we're about to get there. You and I, in our elder statesman years of almost being 30, we're about to fall off that curve in the next couple of years. But these are the people who are way further gone down the rabbit hole, to the point where not only have they fallen off, they're proud that they've fallen off. That's what I find about stuff like that. But the TERF movement is interesting to look at in current context. But yeah.
By disgraced children's author J.K. Rowling.
I'm so proud of her for trying to explain a horrifically complicated, emotionally based personal standpoint on another person's emotionally based personal standpoint through 140 character tweets. She's trying her best. But she's just short of the mark by a little teeny weeny bit. And therefore is just completely hashtag cancelled. It's fascinating. But I'm trying to see if there's anything else that I noted about the whole American civil unrest thing. But yeah, Dan Carlin being my historical guru at this point is pretty well established. But oh yeah, that was the one thing that kept coming up, was whether or not America was going to drift towards a civil war. And I'm starting to... I had some conversations with people during the time afterwards, like some American friends that I had who were rightfully scared of what was going on. And I was talking to them and saying, look, you genuinely cannot get to the point of a civil war right now. And if you do, it's not going to be the Napoleonic-style civil war that you had the first time around. If anything else, it's going to be like a weird high-level gang war, if that makes sense. Like, it might be more akin to the civil insurgency that you had in Iraq and Afghanistan during the occupation there. That's as bad as it's going to get. I mean, Dan Carlin pointed to a Nixon quote that apparently there were 40,000 bombing-related events in the United States during the 70s, most of which, or actually at one point, there was about 2,500 bombings in American soil over the course of 18 months. He says that's as bad as it's going to get. Partial bombs, terror threats, that type of thing. But you won't have this old style, like, marching, invasions and conquest from states to states, because it's you're too intermingled compared to what happened in the past.
And I think that now that Trump is probably not going to be coming back to America anytime soon,
He's out
they've lost their safety net. There's no one to pardon them if they fucking start killing people randomly. There's no one to let them off scot-free.
I saw he moved
They're
to
not
Florida. Where has he moved somewhere else now?
I think he's in Mar-a-Lago, wherever the hell that is.
It's a golfing residency in Florida.
Well,
It's a country club in Florida, basically.
well, maybe he's holed up there. I don't know. Last I heard that he'd left the country, I assumed that Mar-a-Lago was somewhere that's not America. But they've lost their safety net. There's no one to pardon them if they, start killing up innocent people. And also, you're counting on people that have no military training and just a shit ton of guns. I wouldn't count on them having the skill necessary to kill a lot of people, nor the intelligence.
Also, points go to my friend Jenna for the best name for these guys, for the general kind of capital insurgency, because, by the way, this was insurgency. I've seen people try to defend what happened as not being insurgent behaviour. It was. You basically tried to bum rush the United States Capitol building. No. you can't not call that violent political behaviour. But she said she found the term on Reddit for them called the Gravy Seals, and just slow clap to Reddit for that one. That was pretty good.
Yeah, that is.
But yeah, my thoughts and well wishes go out to those who've been affected by the American mini civil unrest that you guys had. It seems a lot nicer now. I'm not going to lie, when there was officially the announcement that Biden was the president-elect, it felt like the internet took a big sigh of relief, and everything was great. So now that we actually have him in office and he's, seems to be steadying the boat quite a bit, it's kind of nice. I feel like things have taken a bit of a step down.
Yeah,
Don't know
things
how
have
it
calmed
is
down.
there, but
Things have calmed down quite substantially. I like that within the first 2 or 3 weeks of Trump's presidency, there was, a alleged collusion with Russia, alleged, misdeeds, all these things were surrounding Trump's presidency, and this all came out within the first 3 weeks. The first thing to come out about Biden's presidency was that he moved one of those Peloton stationary cycles into the Oval Office.
into the Oval Office, nice. I like it.
Everyone just breathed a sigh of relief, and their arse was just unpuckered, just like holy shit, he's boring.
That's what I'm kind of looking forward to. Is politics is boring again? I mean, when you see, I don't want to say literal fanfare, but the absolute orgasm that late night shows in the US had over the last week. There was literal musical numbers. James Corden covered something from Les Mis. I saw Stephen Colbert's show do a cover of New York, New York, for just saying goodbye to Trump on his last day of the presidency. Like, if they'd actually shown them jerking off and nutting, I would have been like, yeah, that seems about right. Like, that's the level of stress relief this week has been on the internet in general. It's been odd.
I've actually been watching some of Stephen Colbert's coverage, if you can call it that, of this whole incident. His video, I think it was a 12 to 15 minute video, him just going off. It was fucking hard to watch, but I think that was probably where I kind of sat up and paid attention, because I've always seen Stephen Colbert, crack jokes. He's always talking about New Zealand and how much he loves sort of nerd culture, sort of Dungeons and Dragons, that kind of thing. But to see him just stop cracking jokes and just be fucking serious for that long, I paid attention.
Yeah, and I think actually he is quite well known for being a detached person. I mean, his old Colbert character that he had for his show back on Comedy Central was a joke about Republicans to Republicans for everyone in the room, by being just detached and very on the party line, but a little bit silly. That is what we're used to seeing with him. So when suddenly it's, guys, I'm not doing this for the opening monologue of the show, I need to talk to you as me. And it's like, oh, it does kind of grab you by the balls a little bit. It's quite interesting. But yeah, I've not seen much of his coverage. Weirdly enough, my mum is telling me stuff about the Corden Les Mis thing. That's how I found out about that. She's like, she really loves his show, apparently. Didn't know this at all. But no, she got into Corden stuff because she liked what he's done over here in the UK. So it was watching that, I'm like, it's a bit much. His thing was a bit much for some reason. But a kind of quick Mad Libs cover of New York, New York for Donald Trump was pretty good.
Very, very measured. Because I did see a bit of James Corden's thing when he was singing the song from Les Mis.
There's one more day.
I don't know what it is. The minute I hear if it's someone doing a cover of a song from a musical, I just tune out. Just the minute you say musical, I fall asleep. I just, nope, can't do it.
I have no interest in musicals, but I've found I end up watching the movie adaptation of Rent, which is about a guy dying of AIDS in the 80s. You're like, what the fuck am I watching this for? And
Seems like a cheery film to watch.
What was the other one? I've seen a couple of songs from the Legally Blonde musical because they've got a weird comedic value to them, because they're just, that's the thing about musicals, it's just silly, so you can kind of enjoy it in that regard. But other than that, you're like, this is not the genre for me at all. Not even kind of.
It's weird. It's again, it all sounds so kind of, edgy. I'm like, I don't like musicals. Musicals are just lame. I don't like them.
Yeah, there's a...
I think it's something to do with whenever I hear someone hitting that high note, I immediately cringe. I'm like, oh, stop it, you'll hurt yourself.
For me, it's the fact that everyone sings their feelings. I think that somebody explained musical theatre that way. It's like, oh, you can... that's what I like about acting, is that someone on the TV or someone in the movie, someone on whatever, even just on stage acting and stuff like that, someone has to convince you that they are this character feeling that thing, and you can interpret what they're doing with their body language to show what's going on in their head. Musical theatre is just, we have to dance and give a big whole musical production, so we have to sing our feelings, and that just seems kind of stupid to me. I don't know what it is, that always just kind of stuck out as being an issue for me with musical theatre.
You just use language.
Yeah.
Just speak.
Use your big boy words.
Here's a pen. Write your feelings, man.
Use your or use your big boy moody face. That works.
Yeah, do that.
And if you can't get it, just fix it in post with CGI. Fuck it.
I think I know what you're referring to, but I don't want to dignify it by giving it more discussion.
Well, what do you think I was dignifying? I'll clap it if you want.
No.
No, there's a mystery involved. Fuck.
I thought you were talking about a certain feeling-based musical that came to movies. Came to the movies. It was adapted into a film.
Certain feeling based. Oh, no, I haven't got nothing.
Yeah, no, that was just. I think it was from last year, start of last year. That was
Like a Pixar film?
No, it was a very famous musical, Cats.
Oh,
And they
right.
just
Right.
brutalized it with CG.
There's no time of day I would give that. I just the fact that it looked one way in the first trailer, a second way in the second trailer, released a third way, and then was remastered while still in the cinema to come out a fourth way. I'm like, you guys had nothing on this. You had no idea what you were doing.
Yeah, they released a patch. For
They
a
patched
movie.
the fucking movie.
It's ridiculous. But yeah, just leave musicals on the stage. Don't make films out of them unless you just record the stage show.
Actually,
Doesn't end well.
when it comes to stuff like that, what about stuff like The Lion King? Not the 2019 Jon Favreau version, but the original. That is the animated show, one that we watched as kids.
Yeah.
That's basically a musical. It's got a bit more drama and more of an action scene because it can. I don't think you can convince a herd of wildebeest to, run across a Broadway stage. But in theory, I'd say that's basically a musical. How much music has to be in a musical?
You just reminded me of a very, very dark theory video that I watched on YouTube because I was bored. But
Right.
yeah, all early Disney films are kind of musicals.
Yeah. I
In
think
fact,
it
all
was,
Disney films are musicals, pretty much. But I was talking about musicals, the big budget stage Broadway product of musicals. That's the kind of thing I can't be arsed with. No, the dark theory video that I watched or came across on YouTube was, why was Mufasa's body never found? Because the wildebeest wouldn't have stopped to pick him up or anything. They would have just trampled him, and he would have just went further and further back into the crowd of wildebeest.
Uh-huh.
And then, because Simba runs away, Simba doesn't stay there to try and find Mufasa's body. Like, he doesn't stay there to make sure the body gets there safe. So there's a scene later on where Scar is sitting there with a lion's skull, just kind of puppeting it. And then some guy does research in it. So what eats lions? And there's a couple other things. Then other lions.
Oh.
Some guy's theory is that Scar eats the dead body of Mufasa, and then starts doing a macabre puppet show with his skull.
Well, my first point against that is they didn't show Mufasa's body because just imagine the fucking state of it and imagine showing that in a kids' movie. And the second one is that because of the state of it, I don't think his skull would have survived to be whole. So just to poke a hole in why they didn't show it and to poke a hole in that guy's theory in specific points, if he'd been trampled by a herd of wildebeest, he wouldn't have a whole skull left to play with.
Sure.
Those things do not fuck
Again,
around.
It is a theory about a film that came out. Lion King came out in the very early 90s. I remember going to see it at the cinemas. The first film I can remember going to see in the cinema was The Lion King.
Yeah.
An old ABC cinema in Stirling that smelled like an odd combination of salt and vinegar and cleaning fluid. It just smelled very sterile, but there was a strong smell of chips.
It was very sterile, but I got the odd suspicion that it wasn't.
It was clean, but someone was eating their dinner. I could just got a smell of it.
Well, actually, the Lion King is like our generation's childhood memory in a movie.
Yeah.
That, and I'd say Aladdin, maybe the most. But
Yeah, it's the only it's the only Disney film that I will happily admit is my favorite film. Aladdin. It's just I watched that film over and over again, and it's because of Robin Williams' genie. He makes that movie.
But I don't know if
Not Will Smith, that blue CGI. Fuck.
I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before. I think I talked about it during when the first part of these videos came out. But there's a guy on YouTube called YourMovieSucks.org, and he has been making movie reviews for the last decade or so, and he is he's preparing a nuclear bomb to throw at The Lion King 2019 because he's such a massive fan of the original Lion King. And he's like our age. He has spent so long on it, he had to make a separate 3 hour or 2.5 hour video about Kimba the White Lion, which is a manga and animated series from Japan in the late 70s. I think the manga was started and the TV show came out in the 80s under the name Jungle Emperor Leo. And this comic book is so influential, it started manga. It started that type of manga in Japan and became the guy who wrote it is considered the father of manga and anime. And he basically found a lot of arguments that The Lion King ripped off Jungle Emperor Leo and then decided to dismantle it for 2.5 hours. It is one of the most brutal YouTube videos that I've ever watched. I've seen a lot of criticism videos and a lot of video essays taking down stuff. I have never seen a video full-length Lord of the Rings style takedown on such a specific niche issue. And all this is a prelude to what he's building to with his Lion King 2019 review. And I've seen the stuff he's talking about in part, he does most of his editing live on Twitch as a way of dragging in a bit of extra money, which it works. But it also helps him interact with fans and stuff, and it keeps him focused on editing. Because editing something like that it looks like a fucking nightmare. And he has been going through doing odd bits and pieces on air and listening to his complaints. Some of them are so tiny, but at the same time I can see where he's coming from. And if this was his favourite movie of all time, it changed who he was as a person, and he watches it religiously now to this day, I can see why he go to such lengths to take down the inferior version of the Jon Favreau version from 2019. It's insane. But I mean, he says so far, he started promising this way back in June 2020. I was like, guys, the video is coming. I'll have it done by August, October, maybe after New Year. Maybe I can maybe rush it and get it out for Christmas of 2020. And it's eventually, and this is some point in September. He just says, it's honestly probably not going to come out this year. And now it's it comes out, it's done when it's done. That's the level he's at this point. He just wants to have all of this lined up because now, he says it's taken so long for this thing that he's made to come out. Jon Favreau went from making the shit show that is The Lion King to saving Star Wars with The Mandalorian. So now he says, I'm not only going to have to fight against Jon Favreau, who made The Lion King, I have to fight up against Reddit's new deity in the savior of Star Wars. He says, I'm going to release this, and I'm going to get fucked by it. So this is going to, if this goes anywhere near Reddit, the like to dislike ratio will go down immediately, and I will be able to tell. And I'll know it's come from the Reddit.
I'm actually quite glad that you brought up Jon Favreau because he and Dave Filoni saved Star Wars, as you quite rightly said. But he is under a lot of pressure, and I mean a lot of fucking pressure right now to drop the. I don't know if you want to bleep this out, but in fact, no, I'll keep it spoiler free. The storyline that we spoke about last episode, how that ends, season 2 of Mandalorian ends. He's basically being pressured by Lucasfilm and Disney to drop that storyline completely, because one of the executives at Lucasfilm, a woman named Kathleen Kennedy, is trying to do a whole different way, trying to do a whole different story in Star Wars. I think it's called the High Republic, and people are now focused on the Mandalorian too much and what Dave Filoni is going to do, because he's basically creating a branching timeline.
Kathleen Kennedy is the one behind the new Star Wars trilogy, isn't she? She's the executive producer for she's the final say on what goes ahead in that series.
She was behind episodes 7, 8, and 9. She now has the new say so on everything Star Wars related.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know how they're going to continue on with the fan favourite view of the universe, which is now The Mandalorian, and then the most reviled version of the fan universe, which is the new movies. I mean, I don't mind Rogue One. I thought it was okay.
Rogue One was fantastic.
Solo, I have my one grievance with it, which ruined the entire fucking movie for me, which is that it didn't show the spaceport blowing up. But I don't think many people were that fussed about Solo because it was It's like the history of the universe, so it just doesn't really fuck with too much.
Yeah, I liked Solo. I thought it was. I didn't go in expecting much, and I came out of the watching it pleasantly surprised. I thought this was a pretty decent film. Donald Glover is a damn good Lando Calrissian. The guy that they got to play Han Solo was pretty good, and Amelia Clark wasn't playing Sarah Connor, so I was happy to watch her in the film. And what's his name? He plays Vision. Fuck's his name?
I'll just leave you with this one.
Paul Bettany.
Yeah, damn it.
Paul Bettany plays a crime lord in it. Again, really good. Like the ensemble cast was really good. It was just a good film to watch. You knew what was going to happen. They had fun with it, in my opinion.
I think overall, like, you've just given my biggest clues to what is wrong with the Star Wars fandom. Like, you went in expecting not too much. They go in expecting the greatest cinema and storytelling experience of all time. It never works out for them, does it?
Like with all things, temporary reactions. Like when a story that I'm going to get into later because it's just too beautiful not to share about Dungeons and Dragons. Just temper your expectations, and you'll be fine. But I don't think breaking away from episodes 7, 8, and 9 with their reaction and even some of the actors' reaction to it with Oscar Isaac saying that he will never go back to Star Wars, to John Boyega outright damning them, saying you didn't know what the fuck to do with my character. Even Daisy Ridley, who was the star of all three of those films, will never do another one because it basically tanked her career.
Yeah.
Mark Hamill, who's the biggest Star Wars nerd on the planet, hates Star Wars or those episodes of Star Wars because of what they did to Luke.
And yet you look at the Mandalorian side of things and they're like, I'm listening to Bill Burr's podcast every Monday and he always gets a letter saying, hey, Billy Rednuts, really liked you in The Mandalorian. Didn't know you could act. Good chops, you know? Like, he's getting those emails from his comedy fans that are coming into the Star Wars universe. And people who are like lifelong Star Wars fans who happen to be fans of Bill Burr. They're both looking at it and go, oh, you nailed it. Way you go. Like, congratulations on a good part in my favourite universe, you know? That's the reaction that The Mandalorian's getting. And I reckon there are people at Disney who are pissed that The Mandalorian keeps working as well as it does.
Yeah, I think Kathleen Kennedy's exact words were, in an interview, she said that this storyline, while it is good, it is bringing back an older fan to the story who want this male-centric view of Star Wars, whereas my view for the High Republic is, more female-centered, young female Jedis, young, POC Jedis.
Marketable Jedis.
Yeah, like marketable, quote-unquote, woke Jedi.
But here's the thing is,
boring as shit. Like you can have that, but you have to make the stories interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you can have those two things at the same time. You just have to remember what you're doing is a silly space opera with light swords, and just lean into that enough, and just say, look, we're going to do something big and grand, and then just like have all the nonsense going on that makes Star Wars fans happy. And occasionally, a female character sorts half the fucking story out.
Yeah.
She kills three people and goes, these people are idiots, walks away, job done.
You can do it in a serious way without it being too serious, because then it leans into what we were talking about before we recorded the podcast with the Charlie's Angels problem, where you've got three strong female characters that don't bounce off each other in any way, shape, or form. They're just stuck together.
You have three strong female names on paper. You don't have three strong female characters. They're not actual characters. They're just whatever you need them to be in the situation.
And when you think about when you boil it down, Star Wars is basically three types of people in a spaceship fighting the bad guys, and it's always the stuck-up royalty, the gunslinger, and the Big Lebowski looking motherfucker that has space powers.
Yeah.
It's those three people in a spaceship fighting the bad guys, which are usually space Nazis or Nazis in space.
There's not a lot of
You need
leeway.
to have a degree of humility when it comes to writing this type of shit. Yeah. It can't just be, everything's serious.
We have to take everything super serious. We have to believe everything we say as we say it, when we say it, how we say it. And you're like, just remember, you're writing the biggest toy franchise in the world's marketing material. Fuck off.
Yeah, ridiculous. But I think it stems from the fact that there's too much Star Wars now.
Yeah.
They took episodes 1, 2, and 3. People like them. They're allowed to like them. I don't, but your mileage may vary. then we had 4, 5. We had 4, 5, and 6 first. Were just the great, untouchable, fantastic trilogy. All three films are great. Then we returned to it, and we had 7, 8, and 9. Mixed bag. Force Awakens is probably the strongest of the series, but then diminishing returns. Then you had 2 good solo outings. Then you've had Mandalorian. Like, let's just stop pushing out so much Star Wars shit. But that's not going to happen because they've just greenlit 12 new Star Wars TV shows. They need to just stop plastering Star Wars on everything and just maybe put a pin in things and realize what's working with Star Wars, what's not working with Star Wars.
Yeah. I mean,
if you sneezed in Star Wars and the fans liked it, that character is going to get a show. Vis-a-vis, Cassian Andor from Rogue One, or the fucking droids. And any Star Wars thing, the droids have their own show that's coming out.
I wonder if that might be where this ultimately leads to, is the fact that the Star Wars movies are the big events, they're the universe changing, like cosmos shifting, big blockbuster cinema moments, where I think the fans of the universe that have grown up with it, as you said, like Kathleen Kennedy says that the Mandalorian's bringing back the older fans. Like, the older fans want something more that's a bit more realistic in a weird way, like it's more down to earth and it's more relatable. And I think that might be what those fans want. They want something that's a bit more ambient, a bit more gritty and muddy and could possibly happen or reflect something real. Whereas, Star Wars as a movie franchise is a big silly light show. I think, you can't, you could maybe try and balance those two, but I don't think you can.
I've heard that they're trying to go for a big extended universe thing, so you'll have from the Mandalorian. That's where they're basically taking their next step. They're going to build off the Mandalorian, and then there's going to be a big Avengers style movie where all these different characters, obviously the prequel type characters, because there's Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Obviously, he's not going to show up, and there's going to be characters that have died after this point that can't really show up. But all the films set after the Mandalorian, or the program set after the Mandalorian, they're all going to show up and fight some big bad guy in an Avengers type film, which I'd be okay with, but it would need to be done right, and it can't just be, oh, hey there, Mandalorian, good to see you here, old buddy. Let's go and punch me, a space Nazi.
Yeah. And my concern is with everyone wanting to be the new Avengers, then when it comes down to how you actually pull that off, not a lot of people know the Star Wars villains beyond Darth Maul, Darth Vader, maybe Count Dooku gets an honourable mention because it's Christopher Lee, and an Emperor Palpatine. But beyond that, like, the main villain for, say, 5 of the 9 movies that have come out has been the one guy. I don't know how deep the roster is on Star Wars villains, because as someone who's not attached to the franchise the same way other people are, I just don't know who the villains are. It's always some guy with an English accent that's the admiral of a Starfleet that gets blown up by one guy taking a pot shot. That's like 2 of the main villains for most of the series.
That's the thing, if you watch The Rise of Skywalker, it kind of makes you hate the Emperor. Like, the Emperor's not this kind of, I had this planned all along. He would explain things. Like, he's all about the slow burn. It's like, he wouldn't just go, I know spaceships arise from beneath this planet's crust that were built by very techie Sith mages.
I still love the fact that we watched that scene and then both realised this is just nonsense. They're just going to make up whatever it needs to be to feel scary, to give the end of the movie a bit of weight to it that doesn't actually work. And then just him like screaming at unlimited power and then throwing enough lightning into the sky to wreck everything for 100 miles was just amazing to watch.
He didn't even say unlimited power.
Was that something we made up?
That was something we made up. He just puts his hand up and creates the fork lightning.
But that's how something so ridiculous, like, we can... like, our reaction to that ruins the entire movie, and therefore several other movies. Because eventually somebody's going to sit down, having watched these new Star Wars films, watch the original trilogy and go, oh yeah, I know where this leads now. Oh, fuck it. I'll turn it off and go watch something else instead.
I mentioned that I want to talk about D&D because I've seen a few posts now saying that people are expecting D&D to be a bit more, what's the best way? A bit more thespian, a bit more flamboyant than it actually is.
A bit more theatrical.
bit more theatrical, yeah.
Yeah, I think we talked about this quite a bit. About you told us about this before. There was an issue coming up in the D&D community that people were listening to Critical Role and other D&D podcasts and coming into sessions with just general nerds expecting a performance. And
Sure. Yeah, people are expecting voice actor quality productions with every D&D experience now, which is unfair. Because I think as much good as Critical Role does, for the game and out with the game, because they donate so much money to different charities, and they have the Critical Role Foundation, which uh, sends out money to various different charities that help all different walks of people, but they have a major drawback of people think that's how D&D is, and one of my favorite things nowadays is to go. I found a YouTube channel called Crit Crab, where this guy dives into the D&D horror stories Reddit and pulls up all these different stories, talking about there was one that I just watched today where he was talking about a DM who was using his D&D game to describe how the Capitol riot was justified and how Trump should essentially be the God president of the United States of America. And as you can expect, every single member of his party left, said it's just worth it, as their right to do, as they are human beings that shouldn't be subjected to this shit.
The freedom of speech to include freedom of association.
Yeah. But through this, cause I like to read D&D horror stories, because I'm a DM. I like to learn from other people's mistakes, and if I was ever to do a kind of a D&D podcast, I hope other people would learn from my mistakes, because I'm an unlenient DM. If you didn't tell me that you're going to do something, I'm not going to let you backtrack and retroactively do it. Oh, I meant to do that. Well, you'll get it next time. I'm a bit of a harsh taskmaster when it comes to that, but I think you need to be. But so I was trolling through. I found it on Reddit, but it was a copied story from somewhere else, and I, for the life of me, cannot find it again. I found this about a couple of weeks ago. Funnily enough, right after we recorded the best of episode, which is available now, and you should download it because it's fantastic. Shameless plug, check.
Shameless plug for ourselves.
So, and it was I think that somebody was in college getting an acting degree, and it was the campus was near enough. It was kind of an offshoot campus of one overarching university, and near that campus was another sort of technical university. Studying medicine, studying law, that kind of thing.
Studying real shit.
Doing the real thing that actually has a point. I got into a bit of a discussion with someone recently about real jobs, but I won't get into it on microphone because it got very heated. I'll tell you about it off mic. Sorry, listeners, you're gonna have to wonder what we're talking about. But anyway, back to the D&D story. So, a guy was looking for a D&D group. He said he heard so many wonderful things about D&D, and he wanted to try playing it. And he was getting an acting. He was studying film acting and theatre acting. I don't know what the technical degree was. He was studying acting, and a friend of his who was at this other university said, "I play in this group."
I think it may be like performing arts degree. I don't know why I know that phrase, but it sounds about right.
Yeah, it sounds right. And if you say it with enough confidence, people will believe you. So he was getting a performing arts degree. Asked his friend. Friend said, "Yeah, we have a group every 2 weeks on a Thursday night. Feel free to come along." And the guy, not knowing what to do, is like, "What should I do? How should I dress?" And the guy just, "Don't worry about it. You'll be fine." So the guy, making a decent effort, puts on decent clothes. I don't know why this is in the story, but it is. And he gets to the table, sets up his dice, sets up his iPad for D&D Beyond, and they're doing the character introductions, and then there's the usual character introductions. People not really getting too bombastic about it. It's just, "Hi, I'm an 8th level rogue. My name is Persephone. I come from this land." Like, "Oh, cool, great." So there's about 3 other people. Then it gets to the title character of this story, and it goes, 1 story, 2 story, and then it gets to him and he goes, "My name is Thespians. I come from this land," and he's properly getting into it, and everyone's looking at him going, "Dude, calm down. You don't need to get this far." And in every reaction, he's just, going over the top. He's being flamboyant. He's being, out there. He's putting on a performance. And at the end of it, he asked the DM for any notes, and the only note that the DM had was, "Tone it down a bit. It's not that kind of game." And he ended this was, well, "Am I the asshole for trying to act in this game that is essentially improv?" And then it was just,
Yes.
like, yes, you are. Temper your expectations when it comes to D&D. It's not only just whenever you cast a spell. It's not, I reach into my bag and summon the courage of my dead hamsters, and then I throw the fireball at my enemy. Sometimes it's just I cast fireball at him. Again, Critical Role do that well because they're all trained actors. You'll hear Liam O'Brien, who's probably one of my favourite voice actors, like viscerally describe how to throw a fireball. But you don't need to do that. Like, temper your expectations when it comes to playing D&D, because if you're going to come in there looking, I mean, some groups do like that. Some groups that I've seen are pretty much based on role playing only, which is fine. But don't go in there expecting everybody to be this thespian great actor who's going to just knock the DM dead with his portrayal of Fuck Nugget the Fourth Mage. It's not good, and I think that it's a growing problem in D&D. People not tempering their expectations.
I mean, we talked about this the last time this came up.
Yeah.
And when we walked away, I think, from that one, I'm still walking away with the same point now, is that if you want to go in and have that big theatrical experience, we're going to recreate The Lord of the Rings using only vocal performances, and it's going to be so convincing we'll all be weeping by the end of it. Go for it. Make sure everyone in the room is going to go for it as well, though, because otherwise, you're the one guy who looks a bit like a tit. So, that might not be the group for you. If everyone just wants to have a more laid back, just more of a gaming affair, more mechanical, more about the interactions, the dice rolling, the combat or whatever, that's how that session's going to go. Don't be that one guy trying to drag it the other way. Just accept it for what it is. It's a pastime, it's a hobby, it's the fun game you play with your friends with a couple beers. It's not always going to be this big to-do, you know?
Yeah, and I'm hoping there will come a time where I don't have to talk about this, but to be honest, I didn't need to talk about this one, but it was just so funny because the final point, when the guy said, "Am I the asshole?" was just, I expected this to be this massive exchange of ideas and performances, but what I did was I spent most of my time rolling dice and doing mathematics. Well, that's what D&D is. There's a lot of maths involved. There's a lot of strategy. There's even some kind of trajectories that you need to work out. There's angles, like, because if I fire a fireball here, it might ricochet. Like, there's more to D&D than just being, "I will cast fireball." Like, there's conversation. There's doing some maths. There's a bit of puzzle, a bit of strategy to it. It's not all just being Thespianus, the chief actor.
But now, not only am I worried about this guy's D&D night being ruined and everyone else's D&D night being ruined by him being there, I'm kind of worried for his acting career, because
he doesn't sound a great actor, does he?
No, I'm more worried about the fact that he's going for a diploma of some kind in performance theatre, and he is trying to say that there's basically one way to do it, and that is the treading the boards. Ironically enough, because we talked about it earlier on, that is the musical side of things. That is the singing your emotions. That is the overperforming. The Shakespearean acting is what it used to be called. And even then, a Shakespearean actor who's good enough, i.e. Sir Ian McKellen, Sir Patrick Stewart, the good ones, know that not every role is a Shakespearean role. Acting has different layers depending on which character, depending on the setting of the movie. If you show up to Judd Apatow was the big one for this, with the kind of mumblecore movies that he used to make, where it was all kind of subdued performances. It was more naturalistic. Seth Rogen was in half of them. It was all about a film recreating something that could have happened to one of your friends. If you showing up like that, delivering every line like it's the last 20 minutes of a Hamlet, you're going to stick out like a sore thumb, and you're going to be seen as tonally different from the rest of the film. Same idea with your D&D night. So if you can't get that at D&D night, the low stakes version of this scenario, I am kind of terrified to see what happens when this guy actually books a movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's safe to say that the original poster of this he's never going to play D&D again. And he will probably not have a lot of success when it comes to his acting career. But, Maybe OP is going to find that thespian acting group that plays D&D, and maybe he's going to have a great time. Maybe he's going to be the next Oscar winner.
Yeah, if that's the tone of the room and everyone's going for it, that actually sounds like a laugh. I really think if you say, guys, we just finished a big campaign, next week we're all going to come back, we're all going to get a little drunk, and we're all going to overact the shit out of our like mini scenario written up, where we're all going to be playing bards, and everyone just goes for it. And like, it's like 5 bards all accusing each other of murder, and everyone has to kind of like perform with a liar to like make it more authentic. That sounds like a good drunken giggle that would be fun, like a good little palate cleanser at the end of like a big serious heavy campaign. That would work. But that can't be your bread and butter if that's not what everyone in the room wants to do. Like if everyone wants to do that every week, sounds fun for you guys, just not for everyone else.
It's a bit of a rough bag, but hopefully a couple more months of Matt Mercer putting out the video of stop copying me, you don't need to. Hopefully people will get the point.
Is he having to make video logs about that now?
I think every month or so he will hit Twitter and just say, guys, why does this keep happening?
Guys, my inbox can't take it anymore.
Apparently he had to cut off his public or his DMs because people were just messaging him with either D&D questions or like random bullshit. So he had to close his public DMs.
I think about the idea that, we've entered a new age of geekdom where geekiness is very publicly acceptable. And, like the top films for the last couple of years, superhero movies based on comic books, or Star Wars movies, or like the DC comic books and stuff like that, the Marvel stuff, the DC stuff. Star Trek is back somehow, in multiple different variations. Like there's so much geeky shit going on. And then all of a sudden you realise that there's going to be some geek casualty in there, and I think Matt Mercer might be one of them. He might have accidentally created the most entertaining geek podcast of all time, and all of a sudden he's seen as this new messiah. And unfortunately that means you get to deal with the Messiah's inbox. Yeah.
And see, to be fair, the rabid fan base that's now associated with Critical Role, I would not want to be involved in that in any way, shape or form.
Yeah.
Back in the old world, I had plans. Me and my older brother had plans to go down to London Comic Con, the MCM event. Would I fuck be going to London now? Because that's just a petri dish of disease. So I was going to get something for the Critical Role guys to sign, probably to my detriment, to the tune of about £400 to get all their signatures, because it probably would be expensive. But I was going to buy their coffee table book, and I thought I'll leave it to the day that it gets released, because surely it can't sell it that quickly. And apparently it sold out within an hour. So Critical Role fans are rabid motherfuckers when it comes to merch. So
yeah. And especially if you just say, oh, and it's a limited release, you have unleashed all hell. Why would you do this to us? And that's, like, whenever someone says limited release now, like, geek stuff is instantly fucked. Look at consoles, look at graphics cards, look at merch lines. Like, everything just sells out instantly because there's so many of us now.
Yeah, I'm still hunting for a fucking Series X, man. As soon as they dropped that, the trailer for Resident Evil 8, I was hunting, man. I've been hunting for... When did the Xboxes come out?
They never wear it. That's the trick.
The Xbox, the Series X's came out. Oh, they dropped. They were launched in October, sold out October the 1st. I've been keeping my ear to the ground looking for one of those. And then when the Resident Evil trailer dropped, I was like, I need to get one of these. I want to play Resident Evil in, 8K or my 4K TV.
All I gotta say, Dom, is, first of all, how do you know they ever launched? Have you seen one yet? I haven't. I'm starting to think this whole thing's fake. I think this is a fake nonsense manufactured in China.
And the frog's gay.
And here we go.
Done the frog's gay.
But the one thing I've noticed when it comes to like the surprise drops from, it's so weird that like we have to now look at a major manufacturer of a gaming console doing shit like a Supreme store. Surprise drop at 3 a.m. No, but they have a general pattern that I've noticed is the people who get it and get one booked are generally awake first thing in the morning. And it is normally like some poor person's like, actually now kind of glad my baby woke me up at 4 in the morning, because now I've just seen the Xboxes are in stock in Argos and I've got one booked. Hooray! You know, like that's the saddest fatherhood story I've heard this year.
They went on sale in Curry's PC World, and I thought, well, I'll wake up early-ish, not early enough as I found out, and see if there's one there. Try and grab it. I woke up at I think 8 o'clock to check my phone and see if I could get one. They were gone. Hours before I even got up. I think about a good solid 8 hours before I woke up. As soon as they dropped on midnight, they were gone.
I've only been in those situations once, because I don't really rush to buy stuff as it comes out on launch day. Never really assuming that we'd be in a backlog of pre-orders maybe 4 or 5 months after launches. But the only time I've been in one of those kind of like bidding queues is I was getting tickets from my dad to go see AC/DC like a decade ago. Actually, probably more than that. And it's so nerve-wracking. I genuinely hate like sitting there at the computer, just like clicking to just try and maybe hope to get through to the buying line, slamming in your credit card information and just hoping you've got the right information. Otherwise, you've just spent like 500 quid as opposed to 50 quid.
Yeah. Just it's funny that you bring up the queuing for gig tickets. I did that with 2 gigs, one of which I'd never went to. The second one I got tickets for because I got in early, and then the gig got cancelled. The first one that I was talking about was the Slipknot gig, the most recent Slipknot gig, and I was like, fuck yeah, I'm going to go to this. Then I found out there was only seating tickets available. I am not going to a Slipknot gig seated, number one. Number two was Rob Zombie, the last tour he was in Edinburgh, I want to say 2016, and I paid a decent whack of cash for 3 tickets for my brother and my brother's wife and myself to go to the gig, and then it was about 3 weeks before the gig, and he fucking cancelled the gig. He's not happy about that because he'd already played before in Glasgow, and I was going to the Edinburgh show because I missed the Glasgow show, and yeah, motherfucker cancelled on me.
Yeah,
bastard.
And now the thing is, now that we've had the pandemic experience, shall we say, are you ever gonna like you stuck your nose up basically at seating tickets for Slipknot, which is understandable. I made the same move myself, but are you ever gonna do that again?
Do what again? Go to a concert?
No. Just say no to seating tickets for Slipknot, like a high level band, but you can only get seating tickets.
Oh well, I think in the future I probably would just if it's only seating ticket, fuck it, I'll take it. Just because
I'll try and weasel my way down into the standing seats or the standing area.
Yeah, I mean, I'd done that at an In Flames gig. I said I was going to the toilet, and the security guard literally caught me. Said, "You were just up in the seating ticket," and I went, "Oh, come on, it's my birthday." And he went, I think it was March or something like that. My birthday's not till the end of the year. But yeah, I went, "Oh, come on, man, it's my birthday." And he went, when you go then.
Yeah, if you're just one, I think to be fair as well, it might be easier to do it to a younger kid, especially if you're an older security guard. You kind of go, he's a wee scamp. He's not doing anything hard. Just get him in. Whereas now, I don't think we're passing
20s.
Yeah, now I don't think we're getting away with that.
I think now that I don't have any black hair left, my hair is pretty much completely white. I think the cow just got, I'll wait up to the seats, mate.
Now you get to just age it up a bit and say, "You say what, old man?"
You say that to my face, you bastard. Young bastard.
You young men these days. Immediately, if that doesn't get the hands off you, immediately you're fine. You should immediately just back off and just be like, "Okay, kid. Okay, old man. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to disturb you."
I'll try that next. If we ever get to go to live gigs again, I'll definitely try that. But I think in the meantime, the most we can really hope for is, sticking to the live streams and maybe getting some live gigs on, pay-per-view streaming, which I think seems to be the way to go because there's a lot of comedy shows that have started doing that as well. Yeah. Over lockdown, I've been reacclimated with an acting troupe called Mischief.
Right.
And they do a show called The Play Goes Wrong, which basically they take Peter Pan. They'll try and do it right, but some of the flight rig will just snap. So there's a guy spinning around the stage. Obviously it's completely safe, but how funny would it be if they take this super serious, this incredibly serious play and just fuck it up at every turn? Like they did a live show, or they did a taping for the BBC, and they're in this pirate ship at the end of the third act or something. And they lose control of the pirate ship and they start crashing through the BBC studio. It's pretty good. And I think they do a show called Mischief Movie Night.
Right.
Where they'll do a completely improv movie. Like taking suggestions from the audience. So they'll do, Give me a Korean zombie film set in Chiswick. Like, show me what that would look like, and they'll do that. I think they do. I think they go on for about 3 hours or something like that. Like they do 3 hours over a week, so you get an hour one day, hour one day, hour one day, and like you pay something a tenner for this pay-per-view pass, and you get live streamed content. It's pretty good, but I think that is the future of comedy, because it's still very weird because you see people doing live comedy gigs now on Zoom and hear them drop funny as hell jokes and hear silence, or in the case of the last one that I watched, you hear their dog barking or their children running around in the background. This is just, it's not the same, is it?
It needs a tweak, I think. And I think the tweak it maybe benefit from is having a little bit of audience laughter track, in the fact that if you tell everyone, hey, comedian can hear you laugh, don't tell them that everyone else can hear them laugh, but then just feed everyone's mics into each other a little bit. I mean, it's going to be tricky because there's going to be that one guy that's listening to music as he listens to stuff. We're going to get like the faint hint through like a compressed audio file on a microphone on a laptop from like 1920 or whatever. Like, you'll be able to hear something that you like doesn't help add to the ambience. But I think if you could get people in the room to just turn off everything and just laugh when you think something's funny, you would find people actually enjoying the shows a bit more, and they maybe opening up the comedians now. But I think a truly professional comic will have their patter down for an online show by now, if they've been doing them religiously. But most of the people I listen to are obviously the LA-based guys, or previously LA-based guys, because they're all moving out now. But
yeah, Texas and shit like that.
Oh, it's I think it might actually just be Bill Burr and Bert Kreischer left in LA by the end of the year, at best.
Did you see that Dave Chappelle caught COVID?
Yeah, I did. But one last thing though, but Tom Segura has been doing a lot of stuff with online broadcasts. Same type thing you talk about, like a premium pay-per-view thing. So it's like 10 quid for an event, and it's literally just an extended version of the podcast he does with Bert. But they go away, they film challenges and stuff, and this is how Tom Segura broke his arm and his leg, by the way. And I've seen the footage for it now. Holy shit! Would not. I don't know if you've seen it anywhere. I know it's been like photoshopped into memes, but holy fuck, watching it actually happen, like they were talking about it for so long, because it happened like a month out from the actual event, and they were talking about it non-stop before the event actually kicked off, and actually watching the footage was like, okay, you guys did not overhype this one. This one you actually earned that oh shit moment from me. So yeah, they've been doing these. I've done 2 of them so far. I'm actually going to miss the next one because it's the Super Bowl game. So they're going to do a live commentary track of, like, they won't show anything from the game. They just say, okay, we're starting the kickoff in 3, 2, 1, and then they just start going.
I can sync it up.
Yeah. So they're going to do live commentary for the Super Bowl game, which is the 6th or 7th, I can't remember which day it is, of February. But I'm working, so I'm not going to be able to see it live with the Super Bowl, which would be fun, because they're having Rob Sapp on, which is going to be interesting, because he's a former NFL player. They've joked about collaborating with him, and they're like, he actually was like, yeah, I'll do it. Let's go. What do you want to do? And they said, Super Bowl commentary. I said, yeah, cool. Sounds great. And he went for it. So they're doing that next week, I think, or maybe later on, 2 weeks from now. But I'm not gonna get it because I'm gonna miss it, and there's no point in having the commentary track if you can't watch the whole game yourself. So yeah, I'll miss it.
That's a bit of a shite. But at the very least, we've always got video games to fall back on. What have you been playing this week, this month?
I have. Let's see. I have. For some reason, I've fallen back into Minecraft. I have no fucking idea why.
Also, I apologise. That was a terrible segue, but I couldn't figure a way to transition smoothly from Super Bowl party or Super Bowl watch party to video games. So fuck it. You take what you can get, goddammit.
I think you would have gotten away with it. It wasn't as bad as you thought, but now you've called attention to it. Yeah, subpar.
Can't see I'm giving you the finger. You call it. This is for the audience. Double board.
I literally just have had Minecraft running. I learned how to build some farms for stuff because I'm considering playing it a little bit more with like people on streams. So I've got it there if I want to play it. Other than that, it has been mostly, what the hell was I playing with Jamie the other day? I was playing something, or played a bit of Left 4 Dead as well, since we were last on stream, or last on the podcast together. And then just Destiny. I've been trying to get back into that as well, because I used to play that game religiously, and now it's still good. It's just not as good as I remember it in my head. So yeah, every time they take a step forward, they take 2 steps back. One big part of it being they keep blocking off content. So there's been previously up to 7 or 8 destinations, and on the one hand I can see why they've taken it back a bit. I think it might have actually been up to 10 at one point, but there's 10 destinations on the map that you can go to, and each one's its own fairly large like hub world with its own like spin-off quests and stuff. And when they cut it down and said start vaulting content, I got kind of pissed, but went back a year later to see how it gone. It's not bad. The quality is still there for what they've left, but stuff is apparently supposed to rotate in and out the vault once it's been worked on and tweaked and stuff, but I've just not seen it happen yet, so I'm just kind of waiting to see how it goes. But I mean, the game is so big in its scale and what the plan is that it's going to take like a year to figure out if it worked or not, so it's kind of a wait and see situation. But beyond that, I played a bit of the Crash Bandicoot remake, and yeah, it's definitely not the same. It is like a ground up remake or of what was there in the original game, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. So haven't played much of it though. I should play a little bit more and do a bit more digging into what's been going on, like why they did it in general, and to print money. But yeah, it's fun. Got it on Steam on sale, so I'll be back with maybe a bit more information next episode.
When you say remake of Crash Bandicoot, do you mean the trilogy re-release?
Yeah, the Insane Trilogy, I think it's called.
It's always one series of games that I want to get around to, but at the same time, I can wait. I was always more of a Spyro fan.
You're going to find out, by the way, that you're not as good at these games as you remember you were.
I would about those. I suck at platformers, especially like a platformer that can get as quick as Crash can. I have no expectations I'm going to be good at it.
As quick as Crash can get in 3D, yeah, it's a bit nuts. And I've got the Spyro trilogy sitting there as well, just because I think they were both on sale at the same time, and I was like, I'll grab both of those. And based on the remaster of Crash, I am all about the Spyro remake before I've even seen gameplay of it. If it's half as good as what Crash has got going for it, it's going to be insanely good.
Well, talking about buying shit in sales, I had to stop myself. I was buying so fucking much in sales. I bought most of the Yakuza games.
All right.
I bought Yakuza Zero for PlayStation, but because PlayStation... Right, I'm just going to say this. I think it needs to be said. PlayStation 4 specifically, I haven't played the PlayStation 5 to try it, but the PlayStation 4 might be the shittiest built console of all time. Right?
Tell them how you really feel, Dom.
Say that again?
Tell them how you really feel.
Fuck it. Right, the PlayStation, I will give it this massive point in its favour. It has some really, really good exclusives. It has Street Fighter 5, it has Uncharted games, it's got Last of Us Part 1, it's got Shadow of the Colossus, it's the Guilty Gear games, it's got a lot of good Final Fantasy 7 Remake, can't forget that. Kingdom Hearts, no, that's not really a PlayStation exclusive, and the less said about KH3 the better, but it's got some really good exclusives. But the hardware is a steaming pile of shit that is waiting to break. I clean my PlayStation out regularly, as everyone who has consoles should do. You should clear the dust out with that shit, make sure it runs properly. But I have had my Xbox One, just original model, OG Xbox One, for as long as I have had 2 PlayStations. The first PlayStation my brother bought started running ridiculously loud, around about the time Monster Hunter World came out, and I think it had only been in use for 3 years at that point, and just decided to tank, like get really, really loud. Games would take forever to fucking load. So decided to upgrade, and I think I had the PlayStation 4 that I'm currently using, my PlayStation 4 Slim, for the same length of time, 3 years, and it is now running extremely loud on startup when I'm not even reading data from a disc. If I'm using an app to watch Scrubs on Channel 4 or something, it still runs loud. Juxtapose that to my Xbox, who can run brand new games without even, spinning the fans and getting really loud. So To all the PlayStation fans, I will give you that point that they have really good exclusive games, but the hardware is shit. Like, Xbox, you don't need to buy a new Xbox every 3 years. You can keep that Xbox going for. I've had that Xbox going for about 7 years, 7 years plus. I've had 2 PlayStations in that length of time. Sony, sort your shit out, mate. You're drunk at the wheel.
It's odd because this isn't an isolated case. If you're wondering, I don't get the console thing or whatever. Like, Dom's not the only case study I have in this one. My brother's PS4s all have the same thing. You get about 3, 4, 5 years in, all of a sudden the fan speed starts to either ramp or the fans themselves become squeaky. Which, for a thing that's supposed to sit quietly in the corner while you play video games, not the best look. My Xbox had a slightly different issue where it wouldn't connect the header to the motherboard for the fan itself, so the fan would disconnect or not read temperatures correctly. It just wouldn't turn on, and I'd basically have a fried console within like 5 minutes. I was able to solve that for a bit by just pumping air through it. I literally had like a USB fan sitting at the side of the Xbox, pushing air through the grill so that it would cool components, and the fan being caught in the motion of the air would kind of spin a little bit and move some of the air for it. But it's not a unique issue entirely at the PlayStation 4. There's a lot of people with that same story of, around about 3 years in, my PlayStation did start doing vertical takeoffs.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned the fan next to the PlayStation. If I want to play a new game on the PlayStation 4, I have to stick a fan in front of it just to cool it down, because the noise that comes off it and the heat is unbearable. It's annoying. I don't want that for my consoles. I shouldn't be able to cook toast on my PlayStation. It gets that warm. I'm pretty sure I could throw toast on there or throw bread on there and cook toast. Motherfucker. And talking about Yakuza, I bought Yakuza Zero, and I bought Yakuza 3, 4, and 5 Remaster because they were both very cheap. And then I thought, well, if it's struggling to play Medieval's, a fairly, high quality game. Yakuza is a fairly high quality game, especially the HD edition on PlayStation. I don't think the PlayStation 4 is going to be able to handle it. But then luckily, Xbox Game Pass stepped in and went, oh, you want to play those games? Step on over to your PC. You can play Yakuza 1. You can play Yakuza Kiwami 2. You can play Yakuza Kiwami 1. And don't stop there. We're getting 3, 4, and 5. And we're getting 6. And we're getting Like a Dragon soon. So just play. At least I can play them on my PC. So I've been doing a lot of PC gaming with Yakuza Zero right now.
See, I've heard good things about Yakuza from a lot of people who are anime fans. So I was wondering for your take on it, just in general as a series. Because I hear that, on the one hand, you have a very interesting story of betrayal, loyalty, honor, sacrifice, and genuine, gut-punching human moments. And on the other hand, you have a guy singing karaoke as a minigame. And both of those are the same thing.
Yeah, the story is fantastic. It's you'd think for a game called Yakuza, you think it would just be, you're going to go and shake down some people that owe you money, you're going to be a gangster. It couldn't be further from it. You start off the game as a gangster, and you're trying to leave the life behind so you can clear your own name, or clear your family's name. Or in the other character that you play as, you're basically trying to earn your way back into the family because of some atrocity. And they're very involved games. Like, the characters are actually fairly well developed characters, and the combat is fair. The combat isn't game breakingly complex, but the combat is pretty fun and flashy and very heavy hitting when it needs to be. I do draw the line at the karaoke though, because I can't do it. I can't. My stupid fat fingers can't deal with that shit.
The karaoke is the least weird of the storylines I've seen.
Yeah.
Super Eye Patch Wolf has a couple of videos on Yakuza and Shenmue as well, and he contrasts the two together, which is it's an interesting way of looking at how games have changed over the last couple of years, or just how a different game director can look at the same rough concepts and put together some completely different ideas. But
I mean, that's how I would describe Yakuza to people. It is better Shenmue. It is good Shenmue. If you want combat that doesn't feel like you're thigh deep in mud constantly, and you want character movement that doesn't feel like tank controls, the bad kind, and a story that actually moves along at a decent pace, play Yakuza. And if you want to, disregarding side story stuff, you can finish Yakuza in 30 hours, which is why I wouldn't really recommend it to people, because it's a long game and you will be stuck playing. If you go for just main story completion, you'll be playing it for a while. If you go for everything, which is it's something that I don't want to do, it's something I'll probably end up doing though because I get oddly OCD with shit like that. I need to do everything in the game before I put it down. I think it comes from when I was younger. If I got a game, I'd try and get the most out of it because I knew it would be a while before I got a new one, and that's just kind of bled over. But adding on the additional side shit could add an extra 30 to 40 hours onto the game. So,
But
it's a fantastic game that I don't think I could recommend to people.
But those 30 to 40 extra hours include perverts dressed up as babies and a fight with a colossal squid. Take that for what it's worth.
Yep.
It might be my favourite part of his video where he explains, I decided to just walk around the local village and found myself walking down the docks. Then bumped into a sailor. All of a sudden I'm fighting a giant squid with a spear gun. Like, what?
Although my current gripes with the game is I keep getting targeted by a character called Mr. Shakedown.
Right.
And Mr. Shakedown does exactly what you think he does. He shakes you down for every penny that you have because he needs a special type of physical training that he can only get by robbing rich people and using their money because he can't afford it himself. And at one point, he hit me to the ground once, took off half my health bar. He hit me on the ground again, and I lost all my health and all my money. And then he looked at me going, that's your own fault for having too much money. Get out. I'm like, fucker. And it starts off with this kind of klaxon, that kind of to signify that he's nearby. Then it starts playing his theme, and I'm like, no. And you can't run.
He has his own theme.
Yeah, of course he does. And there's
I hope it's not like the game giving him music. I hope it's him with a boombox just seeing you across the street and be like, oh shit.
that would be cool, but no, it's the game giving him theme music.
Oh, because that's the thing is, with these games, something like that would happen.
I prefer the idea of him having a slightly smaller Mr. Shakedown, like his daughter or his son or something like that, carrying a boombox behind him. He's playing his theme tune.
Lil Shake.
Yeah, that motherfucker comes out of nowhere, and he plays two characters. There's a Kazuma Kiryu, who's the title character. They call him the Dragon of Dojima. He's kind of an enforcer for one of the Yakuza clans. He gets framed for murder, even though he's kind of like Batman. He'll beat the shit out of anybody, but he draws the line at killing people, despite the fact that you stamp on people's heads and brain them with bikes in the game. Still has never killed. He gets framed for murder, and kind of lost my original point here.
Japanese Batman, Yakuza, fighting a giant squid. Lil Shake in the remix.
Lil Shake. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Play the game. I would recommend it to you, but only if you have a lot of time. Because I've jumped into this, knee deep, and I'll be playing Yakuza games for quite a while. It was like when I first started listening to Critical Role, I started at season 1 of 2 seasons. Each season has about 100 and odd episodes in it. I am on episode 30 of season 2 with another 90 odd episodes to go because they're up to episode 120 now. So I got a long way to go with that shit. And I have 7 extra Yakuza games to play after Yakuza Zero.
Yeah, although I did see they were up on Xbox. I'm maybe going to try and get them around. Like, I do have time off kind of coming up. Well, it's not really time off, but my work's doing 6 days on, 6 days off. So I'm going to have long periods of extended free time, which might be pretty useful for playing something like this. So we'll see what we've got. Oh, also, just to anyone listening, I'm getting my Netflix back. So I'm paying for that subscription service again. If you have any recommendations for stuff that's going to show up on there, let me know, and I'll add it to my watch list, because I don't know what I want to watch. And if someone says you need to watch this right now, it's a better start than me just kind of thumbing through those kind of menus for a while. You know how it goes. You've all done it. Don't judge me.
We all just channel stuff. Fuck that. I remember. My other point. Well, that's what I was talking about. You play as Kiryu and another character called Goro Majima. And as Kiryu, I always seem to get a shit ton of money. So on Kiryu, I have about 10 million yen.
Nice.
But on Majima, I only have about 30,000 to 50,000 yen. So Mr. Shakedown never comes near Majima, but I can't get away from him. Is Kiryu. Motherfucker hound all the time is Kiryu.
I wonder what happens if you start is you can obviously spend that money in places in the
Yeah,
prefecture.
you can buy items and you can buy upgrades to your characters because you get different fighting stances. Like with the three that I have for Kiryu are Brawler, which is a kind of wide cowboy swinging, just brutal fighting style. Then there's a what's it called? I can't remember the name of it, but it's more of a kind of boxer stance. It's more about ducking and weaving and moving. And then there's the beast stance, which is just all about big, heavy, crushing blows and picking up signs and braining people in the head with them. And you can spend money upgrading those.
Wait. A guy who is a martial arts master walks in and kicks your ass, tells you have too much money, and yet you can use money to develop your own fighting styles?
Yeah.
A bit heavy-handed on that one, Yakuza.
It's a little bit, but yeah. I mean, it's not that Mr. Shakedown wants to develop his style, it's just that he's at that level of bodybuilding that he needs to pay a shit ton of money to get more equipment.
It was more to do with them being kind of like them hinting at money and martial arts power are kind of linked. And if you have one guy with a ton of money, but he gets his ass kicked, maybe you can balance it out at the other end of the equation. I wonder if that's maybe a bit of an idea for that they threw in there as kind of like, hey, one guy's going to have a ton of money and not a lot of places to spend it. Because I was going to suggest, what if you just blasted all your money? What happens with Mr. Shakedown?
Well, he only comes after you if you have over something like 1,000,000 yen. If you're worth it, he'll come and shake you down. But
right.
he only comes after you if you have a lot of money. But it's not really, the game doesn't really focus on martial arts. You don't do, whereas Shenmue was all about learning different martial arts styles so that you could fight Lan Di and avenge your father, learning all these different fighting stances. Whereas Yakuza is literally just, you have this move where you box a little bit, or you have the rush stance where you box a little bit. You have the brawler stance where you just beat the shit out of anything that's in front of you. Then you've got the beast stance where you just get fucking angry and start beating people with anything that you can come in your hand. It's kind of a departure from let's do cool button combos like Virtua Fighter to get cool martial arts moves, and a more of a shift to let's just have visceral, brutal combat where you snap on someone's head after doing a cool 3-hit combo.
Yeah. But you would recommend Yakuza if someone is willing to get a bit weird and has a spare 50 hours?
If you've got a spare 30 to 50 hours and you're willing to have lengthy conversations with a man called the Walking Erection, by all means, get into Yakuza.
Oh, I'm still buying this game. Not even going to go find it for cheap or free. I'm just going to go buy the full price game.
Zero is on Game Pass. Same with Yakuza Kiwami 1, which is a remake of Yakuza 1 on the PlayStation 2. Same with Yakuza Kiwami 2. Yakuza Remastered Collection, that is Yakuza 3, 4, and 5. That's coming soon. Same with Yakuza Like a Dragon, which is the latest release, which is more of a turn-based RPG style. It's not the brawler that the other 6 games are. But still, I've been told that it's very fun.
Right. I'll put that on the to-do list then. It's good to have something that's gleefully weird on there. I quite like that.
Unashamedly weird. Unabashedly weird. As
opposed to just being shit, which leads us cleanly into Cyberpunk 2077.
Still have not. I told you that I installed my copy, played half an hour of it, and it looked like I was playing with clay models with no faces.
This started because I found a video that I wanted to see what the deal was with Cyberpunk. How could it possibly be as bad as people were saying it was? Yes. Yes. And that all came from a YouTube video I found where someone just let the game play for 40 minutes with a little bit of commentary and stuff about what was going on, more about the promises made by developers, and then the kind of reaction from the fans, and then the reaction from the development studio about what was going on with the series. And I feel like this is possibly the best warning we're ever going to get in the gaming industry about hype that has completely backfired. That a studio with an impeccable record sells you a product with the title screen, the first or the appearance of a character, a well-known actor, and then just sells you the game based on that, everyone lines up, throws money at the project, it goes ahead, and complete shit show. I don't think we're ever going to get a clearer message against hype for a product than this.
Yeah. I think Cyberpunk is going to go down infamously, and I think they're going to re-release the game in about 2 years' time once they've ironed out all the shit, or maybe a year's time once they've ironed out all the shit, and just say, right, if you bought the game, if you haven't bought the game, you get a severe discount, but if you bought the game before and got a refund, you have the game for free. It's the only way CD Projekt Red are going to recover from this.
It's odd that
brutal.
I just a lot of people have pretty good footage from PC game sessions, and I like some of what I see in Night City. There's some stuff that I understand why it works the way it does. For example, they're talking about the bustling city streets and how they feel so real and active. Unfortunately, when you say that to someone on like Reddit or on the internet in general now, if you say we have this great system that makes it feel like the streets are real, someone then observes the streets to see what's happening. And then all it takes is someone standing off at a weird angle, and you can see it's just like a loop of pre-planned NPCs going backwards and forwards. And I get why they do that, because if you're not supposed to look at it from that angle, you're probably supposed to just walk through that street, not even notice what anyone's doing, just feel like you're in a city. You're probably supposed to walk through that crowd at some point and then leave it in the back. But all it took was someone just stepping back like 20 paces so they could show you the entire like circuit the NPCs walk. And it looks really weird. It looks very surreal. I quite like the footage in a very dark way. It seems it's kind of like how I imagine North Korea to be. Which is probably not the best way to describe it, like a top tier video game. But it's like when you hear that
character just walking about with their guns out for no reason.
Well, I mean, when you hear that North Korea has like faked cities and stuff like that, and fake shop fronts for tourists that have come in or journalists that have come in to inspect the city, so that they can see what North Korea is all about. Like, it feels that way. Like, it feels like they put up this weird facade of a city and it just didn't get like polished out. Like, a lot of it, especially when it looks at like vehicle flight paths, you can tell that like just a part of the building that it's flying through wasn't supposed to be there, or was supposed to be something else to accommodate a vehicle. And then all of a sudden they just say, oh, we never really got to that in time. And the number of times that video shows like an asset that's missing. I don't know if you watch the video, look out for little red boxes that say asset in development. So it's like a thing they hadn't finished drawing or making. And like there's a lot of them. There's a lot of little details. The main one I noticed was somebody went under like an AC unit and looked up, and it's like the caps for the fan heads. That was missing on all 3 units. They just didn't. It's just missing files that are obviously supposed to be in a day 1 patch, but were missed on the day 1 patch, and then somehow the game still made it out. It's really, really odd.
If you kind of juxtapose that to the Xbox debacle with them hiking the prices up for Xbox Gold, they went back on that quickly. Cyberpunk slowly brought these things in, and it's kind of interesting to see that Microsoft are one of the most critiqued companies, or gaming companies out there, got it right. Where CD Projekt Red were just going, no, just keep playing the game. It's fine. We'll fix it.
Yeah, and it's like with the Microsoft thing. What happens? They said, hey, a year, like you're gonna pay $60 US for a year's worth of Xbox Live, and then they shortened it down to 6 months.
So you basically paid $120 for the full year.
That's an insane amount of money. That's the amount of money that I look at when it comes to like a PC upgrade, like a good PC upgrade, like a terabyte hard drive that's like an NVMe SSD. I'm like, I could throw that into my PC and like make a much better system. Like it makes my everyday life a lot better. Or I could pay for Xbox Live.
Pretty easy when you think about it.
Yeah. Sorry, Microsoft. I mean, you'll probably get my money from somewhere else, eventually somewhere down the line. But I'm not willing to pay that much for the service. And I think that I kind of knew something like this was going to come because, you know, the consoles are selling for a price that I don't see how you make a profit on it. The games are being shifted onto Games Pass rather than being bought for 60 quid a pop. So most people go that route anyway. I don't see where Microsoft was going to make money unless they did something like this. But they were caught doing it, probably because they announced it publicly, and then everyone said, oh hell no, and flipped it on them, and now they've walked it back. It'll be back in a year's time, by the way, just a heads up. But a year, 18 months maybe, somewhere around there they'll say, yeah, we really do need to look at the pricing of Xbox Live subscriptions. And they won't be back at the full price tag. I think they'll maybe throw an extra 20 quid on there.
Maybe.
But yeah, it's an odd... It's good. Sorry, there you go.
I really don't think that they're going to increase it. I genuinely think this has been such a learning experience for them where if they try and increase it to that degree, it's not going to work. And I think with the console, console is where we could see the price hike.
Nah, when it comes to a situation like this, I look at it in terms of, okay, your corporation looking at what happened. Like, we're putting out this price. You say, oh hell no, we take back the price. They're then going to come back at maybe just a little bit less. And they'll just keep pushing that line as far as they can go. And maybe it might not be, that's why I say 20 quid extra for the year. Because it's not as much, but it is more. And it takes baby steps to move something like this. Especially when you have an entrenched system that people have been paying for, what, 10, 15 years now, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember when the Xbox Live service went live, but it's got to be around 10, 15 years. And I think that now you've got people so used to paying for such a low price, because it is a good bargain. But at the same time, when you get people moving away from that to PC and losing all those customers, I feel like you're going to lose the market, and you have to charge... It's a weird way of thinking it, is that you're charging the loyalists more for the actions of the people who deserted you. I don't see why that works.
Yeah, that was a bit harsh. It doesn't seem fair to me that people have left Xbox for PlayStation, which is just kind of the same, but you get less quality, in my opinion, in terms of free games and shit like that. I mean, you can argue that maybe some of the games are better, but you get maybe one good game every couple of months. The rest of it is FIFA or Rocket League or Farming Simulator or Goat Farming Simulator. Some combination of the above. But it doesn't seem right that you say to the people, yeah, you're loyal, you stayed with us, you're going to have to pay more because these guys fucked off to Sony or these guys now play on PC.
Yeah. It's, good luck with it, Microsoft. You're going to have to find some way of making money. I hope it's not microtransactions. I'm kind of tired of hearing about games with clearly cut lines where, like, the DLC goes here, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like it's affecting too much game development. I mean, I wish there was a better way of charging it. I don't know, maybe if this starts the argument for a price hike for games in general, but we'll see.
Well, games right now are already, £60 for new games? 40. I think if you've got a lower end game, it starts at about 45, but most of your higher end games, your Call of Duties and stuff, they'll be £60 a piece.
Yeah. £60 with a ton of DLC, season passes, map packs, as much as they can cram in there, because that's Activision Blizzard. But yeah, I want to see what happens to those Microsoft first party titles, the stuff, or the Microsoft Studio titles that come out in the next year or so. I'm hoping it's not as bad as I think it's going to get. But yeah, it's an odd time. I mean, all of this is just an argument for Steam, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking about that myself. This is just an argument for, A, playing what you already have. Like, let's be fair, just stick to what you already own. Or buying them cheap as hell off Steam, because Valve makes ridiculous amounts of money off Steam.
Mm.
And the good thing about that is Valve have now realised that because of how well Half-Life Alyx sold, that there's still a market for Valve-made first person, but single-player titles. So hopefully there's something in there that's going to make them realise that people still want to play Left 4 Dead, people still want to play Half-Life, people still want to play Portal. Give us more of that shit.
Yeah, there was a term that was around when Xbox 360 and PS3 were the big dogs in town, and that was the mid-shelf games, the stuff that wasn't great. It was mostly on the PS2. That's what the PS2 had going for it, was a fantastic mid-shelf of games. where it wasn't the best like AAA development. It wasn't like the new Call of Duty, which is trying to be a cinematic experience with a fun multiplayer tacked on the side. It was more to do with just having a story and telling it with a game. And I think that used to... People lamented that being gone on the Xbox One and the PS4. But I think it just moved over to Steam. And unfortunately, that means it's buried underneath all the shite that's on Steam as well. But I think that's kind of where the ideas moved.
You're right about there being a lot of shit on Steam. I looked up Hades on Steam because I think it'd be easier playing that game with a keyboard because you're pushing so many buttons so quickly that playing it on a Switch controller, well, I can do it, is quite sore on the hands. And the amount of Hades-like games that there are now, and the weird anime variants thereof that are on Steam, is ridiculous.
Just send me the one with the biggest tits. That's all I'm interested in.
Yeah. Which one's got the massive doos? And Steam Greenlight system, well, it's a good thing for budding game designers. It's also a bad thing for consumers because we have to wade through.
The idea that you can take someone like, say, Jim Sterling, who is a games journalist and a online media personality, and he has to rally his fan base to the cause of sorting out the shit from the good stuff on Steam, says something.
Yeah.
Although I haven't checked in with Jim recently. I'm kind of worried that if I'm going to click on him, he's going to have gone right off the deep end. So, well, I don't know. We'll wait and see before I say Jim Sterling's an internet hero.
I could never say that. You know my thoughts on Jim Sterling.
He's too... have you noticed that wrestling's come back? Yeah,
in a big way.
I'm not sure how to feel about it, because there are people who make really good arguments for it. Again, Super Eye Patch Wolf being the main one, that will say, if you look at it not as a sporting event, but as storytelling, it's captivating, and it's gorgeous. And you're like, fair point. I mean, even the fact that Mark Callan, the guy who played The Undertaker, is on Joe Rogan this week, I'm looking forward to that. And I've not watched WWE since I was 10. But that's the thing is, like, when you look at the story of The Undertaker running for the, like it has for the last, 30 years almost, that's insane. And that's something I kind of want to know how it panned out in the end. You know? Like, imagine if Game of Thrones went on for 30 years and we're like, oh, they just finished it. What happened? I was so invested in that 20 years ago.
Wrestling popped up in my zeitgeist recently. I found a series of videos called Rugby, The Road to WrestleMania. And it had Triple H talking about how the core values of rugby are basically the same as the core values of wrestling. And the jump from rugby to wrestling isn't as severe as you'd think it would be. And there's quite a lot of people who played rugby are now trained
They're
wrestling.
now playing wrestling, Dom. I know exactly what you meant. You said the right thing. You didn't know you said it, though.
Yeah, I know that I said it. It may come back to haunt me. But they're now, wrestlers. Now, wrestling entertainers. Like, is that really an actual thing? But you think of it, it's kind of the same thing. Obviously, there's more of a degree of skill in rugby, but rugby players and wrestlers are kind of the same people.
Yeah. It is the big, burly, macho men. I don't think it's like a different... I don't think it's the same... Like, there's a skill level comparison. I think it's... The skill levels are high because the resulting injuries are going to be horrific. So everyone has to be on top of their game. The training, physically and mentally, is top tier, really. And then when it comes down to, it's just a different skill set it's being applied to.
Yeah.
We're going to become a wrestling podcast, aren't we, Dom?
No, fuck no.
I don't want to talk about oily men throwing each other around the ring. I just don't want to do it.
I'm not gonna say, you watch wrestling, you're an idiot. Because a lot of people that I am still friends with to this day still watch wrestling, and I don't decry them their hobby, but I stopped watching wrestling when I was about 10 or 12, probably a bit older than that, but it was a while ago. I don't want to talk about wrestling.
Do you think we should do that? That should be like a special, 100th episode. We get completely drunk and just live commentate over wrestling. And just see what happens.
But I don't drink anymore.
You do now. Dom, we're watching wrestling. You drink now, okay?
I don't know, man.
Even then, you're like, are you worried about the actual event itself, or the shameful combination of waking up hungover and realizing you just screamed about wrestling for 3 hours.
Yeah, it's the cracking open the alcohol seal again, because I've not been drinking for a while and I think I'm a bit better for it. Watching wrestling and then the earth shattering, sobering hangover of the following day that realised I just shouted about wrestling for 2.5 to 3 hours while drinking whiskey like it was my last meal.
I like, I just like the idea so much. You waking up going, "Oh my god, what did I do last night? Did I kill someone? Did I sleep with some skank? Oh god, I watched wrestling."
Oh god, I paid for WrestleMania.
Oh god, it was pay-per-view. Oh my god.
I
Yes.
bought a season pass.
Right. Away from the subject of wrestling, shall we?
Yeah, let's do that.
Oh, right then. Showstopper it is. Right, so I'm just going to start off by sending you this article that was sent to me. And this came from my friend Jenna in the United States. She's one of the people I was talking to when the election nonsense went down. And she is of Scottish descent and often asks me like weird folklore questions as if I know what I'm talking about. So
Okay.
I fake my best answers. And she sent me a map of the UK and various local legends, including where the fuck is it? Stuff like the Beast of Bodmin Muir, which is a classic. I think it was actually one of the inspirations for a Conan detective. What is it? No, Sherlock Holmes. That's what it is. Sherlock. Yeah, one of the original Arthur Conan Doyle novels about Sherlock Holmes. There was also stuff like the Dullahan, the classic Irish folk myth of a headless horse woman person, or horseman. You've got stuff like the leprechaun on there. You've got the Kelpie, the Silkie, and the Selkie, for those of you interested in Scots mythology. But then somewhere in the middle of the map comes the Tizzy Wizzy. And she says,
I'm reading the article that you sent me, and it does not make sense.
It barely does. But you can make sense of it after many, many drinks and like 3 attempts to read it with a little bit of background reading. The Tizzy Wizzy is the folklore equivalent of the Loch Ness Monster for the Lake District in England. The Lake District, for those of you who don't know, is a tourist destination with fuck all going on because the land is sodden and can't grow shit. So it just exists to exist as a tourist destination. So, at some point, someone just decided to make up a monster. But being from the quaintest part of England possible, could only come up with a legend of a fairy-like creature with a hedgehog's body, a bee's antenna, dragonfly wings, and a squirrel's tail. Not monstrously oversized, just regular-sized weird animal components glued together. The story, weird enough for us, is made up, apparently, by a boatman from Bo'ness. Only thing is, not Borisness, the town that raised the pair of us, it's from another part of the Lake District, called Bo'ness, Bownness, on Windermere. A town so boring, its Wikipedia page can be scrolled through in one swing. I've never had that before. I'm pretty sure there's houses that are older or younger than us with longer Wikipedia pages. But yeah, if you take a look at the Tizzy Wizzy, other than its ridiculous...
The history section on its Wikipedia page is 4 lines.
It's
4 lines of text.
And the entirety of that history, it can be summed up as, at one point people fished here, now they just kind of live here and look out at the lake. Seasonal tourist occupation is double the normal capacity. You're like, what? That's not history. That's you're barely a road stop. You're lucky if you have a KFC. But the actual legacy of it's really funny because apparently it was just a guy was sitting in a pub and noticed there was a bunch of really drunk people from London who didn't know what the countryside was and was like, I'll make up a fantastic beast and say that I'm the only one who can help them find it. So he made up the Tizzy Wizzy. This shitty little animal. It's like, it doesn't have any folklore, it doesn't have any historical sightings, it doesn't have anything going on about it. It's just a weird animal where he was like, I bet you can convince a bunch of drunk Londoners that this is a real creature that exists out here in the wilds of the Midlands. And you're like, this is insane. Like, if you look at the rest of the map, it's all monsters. It's the Loch Ness Monster. It's the Grey Man from, like, up the bends, you know? It's all these monstrous figures that represent something deep and twisted about the British psyche and unexplained events. These monsters fill in the gaps to explain things we don't understand ourselves. And then there's the Tizzy Wizzy. So
Does that make him a genius or an idiot?
I don't know. I think that's maybe
A combination of the two.
maybe that's the discussion we need to be having these days. I mean, there's nothing serious to discuss anymore. Trump's out of office. So let's really get into the legacy of the Tizzy Wizzy. So I'll be sure to post this as well. I'll post the article onto our Twitter as well when the episode comes out. And you guys can enjoy this little blog about the legend of the Lake District that is the Tizzy Wizzy.
I mean, it's not an idiot if it worked. This guy clearly fooled a bunch of people.
If you got paid, game recognized game, I've got to say.
If he got some money out of this, then damn.
Maybe we're the idiots for not believing in the power of the Tizzy Wizzy.
No, the real idiots in this story are the dumbass Londoners that believed him. You're not allowed to be that stupid.
Like, just the fact that every animal, he could probably have seen a picture of it in the pub at some point. Like, he probably was like, it's got the body of a hedgehog and a squirrel tail. And he just makes shit up on the go. And the Londoners like, that sounds fascinating. You must take him on your boat tomorrow.
I like the image. I'm just looking about the pub, a bit drunk, going, "Oh, it's the body hedgehog, squirrel's tail, aye, wings, wings."
You wouldn't believe it as well. There's like wee sticks on the front of its face. Oh, antenna, like an ant. No, like a wasp.
They're called antenna, sir. No, we fucked up eyebrows.
It's every now and again something comes across and you're like, what did you just hand me? The fuck is this? And again, this is something I don't know, so I'd never even heard of this before. And when she sent it to me, I was looking at the text from going, what is with this? What the Tizzy Wizzy? And I'm like, great question. What is with the Tizzy Wizzy? Immediately dropped everything I was doing and went to look at this ridiculous animal. So yeah, well, a ridiculous legacy monster, I guess. But yeah,
an ostentatious, not hideous-looking statue in the central belt. Because I mean, Kelpie's got one. Why not the Tizzy Wizzy?
I want it 40 foot tall, made entirely of mirrors. I love it. Right, I think that's our show for today. If you want to get, if you,
The legacy of the Tizzy Wizzy.
the what?
We're going to end on the legacy of the Tizzy Wizzy.
Just so stupid.
Dumb.
It felt appropriate for the end of the Trump era. That's all I'm gonna say. If you want to reach out to us, you can do so on Twitter at Gibberfish, which is the easiest way to find us, or you can email us at gibberfishpodcast@gmail.com. And other than that, you can reach me at Aaron Lord the Mad. You can reach Dom at
Anderson 25.
good a guess as I'm gonna make. And since what was it? Sorry.
Yeah, Dom_Anderson 25 on Twitter. That's where you can find me.
But until next time, I've been Colin Graham.
I've been Dom Anderson.
And we've been talking Gibberfish.